Good afternoon. On behalf of Engineers Australia, I'm delighted to welcome you all to our Thought Leader series, Mastering Project Management and Data Utilisation. My name is Megan Purdy and I'll be your host for today. Firstly, in keeping with our custom, Engineers Australia acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to them and their cultures and to elders, past and present. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that today's webinar has been hosted with Engineers Australia's industry partner, Total Synergy. Founded in 1999, Total Synergy is a global leader in business management software and solutions for architecture, engineering, and construction design businesses. More than 15,000 users and over 880 businesses in 13 countries rely on Total Synergy for intelligent business and project management software and superior services. Built by AEC industry experts for the industry, Total Synergy helps engineering consultancies to effectively manage operations to increase profitability and growth. Now, today, we will hear from our three speakers, followed by our live audience Q&A. So I encourage you all to please send your questions through to our speakers via the chat box. I'd now like to welcome our first speaker, Michael Downing. Michael is the National Business Leader for Project and Program Management at Arcadis, overseeing a team responsible for delivering over $200 billion in major projects across Australia. His portfolio includes notable projects such as the Westgate Tunnel, WestConnex M4 to M5 link tunnels, Sydney Light Rail, Parramatta Light Rail, Canberra Light Rail, Gold Coast Light Rail, Cross River Rail, Toowoomba Second Range Crossing, Boral Geelong Cement Import Terminal and Brisbane Airport. Michael is passionate about leveraging project management and data management systems, as well as innovations in AI to enhance project performance insights. Please join me in welcoming Michael Downing.
Thanks for the introduction, Megan. I've been with Arcadis for just over 2 years. As you mentioned, I oversee a team that delivers a wide range of services and a project portfolio of over $30 billion under development or construction. Our work includes project management advisory for major projects like Brisbane Airport Terminal 3, EPCM services for the Boral Geelong Cement Import Terminal, Northeast Link Tunnel, and many other major projects. So throughout my career, I've worked across various industries, including oil and gas, mining, defence, transportation, and industrial sectors, and my focus has been on complex projects and programs. Today, I'll be sharing insights from my over 20 years of experience in construction and EPCM project delivery. I'll also present a case study that examines a major EPCM project, discussing what went well during the procurement and fabrication stages of the project and areas for improvement across the full project lifecycle, including integration with the supply chain. The standard project management aspects for scope, time and cost are often the first things people think of when a project is running well or poorly, but today's project management must now integrate with the digital scope and assets produced by a project. This can seem quite overwhelming to even the most experienced of project managers. Complex infrastructure projects are lagging behind other industries in the adoption and integration of systems and methods to plan, capture, analyze, and drive performance across the full lifecycle of both the project and the asset. Infrastructure projects can be complex, and so too is the data behind them. Data powers everything we do and every decision we make, yet we often fail to identify these requirements or implement a holistic solution in time to maximize it. Today, I'll be sharing my experience across industries like oil and gas, mining, and transportation, but the concepts I'll discuss are equally applicable to other sectors, including social infrastructure, where projects are also considered quite complex. So I pose the question, as a project manager, how can I influence more effective data management on my projects? Firstly, we need to understand the foundational data requirements. From our understanding of the project scope, we develop an estimate, a budget, a plan, and a schedule. As the project moves into development and then delivery, we carefully manage change to the project scope, we manage quality, we mitigate our risks, we deal with issues, and we drive performance to deliver the final project, product, or asset. However, project data is often more complex than it's acknowledged to be. You see on the screen, I've prepared a simple matrix that shows various data coding structures or data sets across the top. Though this list isn't exhaustive, for example, I've omitted time card data, correspondence data, productivity, progress data, risk information, and many others. This is just to give you an idea. Down the left-hand side, I've listed the various stakeholders and their information requirements on a project. And where these intersect, I've highlighted where certain data sets are most relevant or of a lower consideration by the end user. Now, this isn't set in stone, this approach, as clients and projects may have different requirements, but it serves to highlight the complexity of data across all project phases. My recommendations for strategies for effective project management and understanding and leveraging data are to firstly, define the data requirements and establish them early in the project. This will become your common data environment, or CDE. Adopt a federated approach, so all parties benefit from the digital assets, and this includes project data basics like time, cost, and as-built data. But more importantly is the coordinated approach to high-value digital assets, such as building information modeling, or BIM, or digital twins. And as the project manager, treat digital assets as something that you lead or help define, develop, or deliver on your project. I'm pleased to be jointly presenting with others from industry who appreciate the integrated nature of project management and the data that supports our role as project or program managers. Later in this webinar, you'll hear more about specific tools such as Total Synergy that can be used. But for now, let me start with my first case study, which looks at analysing how integrated project delivery and the common data environment, CDE, are key result areas for optimising the project supply chain. I'll be discussing how these were used on a major project in the mining industry, in the design, fabrication, and logistics for a water desalination plant. Without revealing client or project specifics, in this case study, the client did use traditional open pit mining techniques to excavate iron ore and process it on site into a concentrate for export from purpose-built port facilities in Western Australia. A key piece of infrastructure for the mine was the massive 51 gigalitre desalination plant supplying the processed water requirements. I led the implementation of the integrated solution for the fabrication and logistics management of the 60 modules for the plant, working from both Perth, Western Australia, and at the fabrication yard in China. It was a mammoth effort with over 750 containers and thousands of components from across the globe converging at the fabrication yard. The CDE was pivotal to project integration and data management, from detailed design, shop drawings, to equipment, bulk materials, module fabrication, and finally assembly and testing at site here in Australia. Given that there's no quick and simple data solution for a complex and challenging project or supply chain management, I guided the team in developing and using a cloud-based federated data model and CDE, which allowed various systems, vendors, and project team members to work from a single source of truth. We nearly eliminated Excel spreadsheets, not totally, but we did understand that use of Excel on these types of complex projects does pose a risk in tracking equipment or documentation, such as the bills of lading. For example, a single missed item on any of those 750 containers shipped to the fabrication yard could delay the project by weeks. So high risk was nothing that we could leave to chance. But I would say not everything ran fully as planned, and the lessons learned from the project I now take to all projects I contribute to. Especially the most important one was to plan, define, and integrate your data requirements and mandate their use where applicable, and establish the CDE earlier in the planning of the project. The further a design progresses, or material takeoffs are completed and equipment and material orders are placed, the more costly it becomes to recover. I also recommend that all complex projects appoint a project information manager and draft their data and information management processes and strategy as early as possible, because it's only with the full adoption of a federated data model can the project effectively de-risk and optimize the supply chain. So looking ahead, what does digital systems development look like at Arcadis? Well, firstly, I find my role at Arcadis quite exciting and forward-looking. I'm supported by both local and global digital specialists who are integral to the techniques I've outlined today. And as we look ahead, we're focusing on how we can use data and information more effectively across the project and evolving areas such as BIM and digital twins, standardization and automation, field inspection, asset management. A common question I receive is about the role of AI in our work. So at Arcadis, we are making significant investments in AI and already seeing several applications actively used in the market. But you might be wondering, will AI replace the need for the detailed structures I've discussed today? And whilst it might seem that way now, the reality is that the AI platforms are evolving. They will increasingly improve our ability to access and interpret information. However, the planning, establishment, and execution of digital systems will still rely heavily on our professional expertise. And it's crucial to remember that AI isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. While AI can enhance efficiency and offer deeper insights, it works best when combined with human expertise and judgment. So the future would likely be a blend of AI-driven automation and human oversight, enabling us to harness technology's power while preserving the nuanced understanding that experienced professionals bring in the industry. So in summary, as AI continues to advance, it will provide us with the powerful tools for data interpretation and action. However, we must remain strategic about integrating these technologies into our workflows to maximize their benefits. So thanks for listening, and thanks, Megan. Back to you.
Thank you, Michael, for your input today. I'd now like to welcome our second speaker, Julian Connolly. As account executive at Total Synergy, Julian works with architecture businesses across Australia and New Zealand to help them overcome the day-to-day challenges they face and to help them run their operations and deliver their projects more efficiently and profitability. Please join me in welcoming Julian Connolly.
Thanks for the introduction, Megan. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Mastering project management and data utilisation is quite a relevant topic for us at Total Synergy. As a project management software platform designed for built environment consultants, our platform is constantly being developed to try and optimise our clients' ability to gain insight from the copious amounts of data that flow backwards and forwards throughout the project lifecycle. The challenges our clients are generally facing on this front are how to continue to evolve the use of their data from simple project progress and profitability reporting into actionable strategic initiatives at a project and project portfolio level. Client and stakeholder expectations are evolving, competition is ever increasing, and technological advancements are creating even further data inputs to be captured and ideally leveraged. The first issue we generally see is an inability to measure or collect complete or appropriate data. This is typically caused by poor processes or not having a platform in place for the appropriate stakeholders to enter data effectively and efficiently. Having a platform in place and creating a culture in which good data entry habits are easily enforced is a vital step. Once a solution is in place, the next challenge is knowing what to measure. For professional service firms, there are some key yardsticks like the budget and the fee itself, but the right platform can help to add gravity to simple metrics. How profitable is a client, for example? Is the kind of work we want to pursue based on our previous metrics? Are we seeing trends in sectors we need to throw more business development at? The context that can be provided with the right tools in place is limitless and should be an ongoing strategic initiative for any business. Effective project management for consultants within the AE space is reliant on the bigger picture, that each individual project needs to be managed on its own unique circumstances, but an awareness has to be present that each project is part of a portfolio, and ultimately the performance across the portfolio dictates the performance of the business itself. There are always going to be elements of project management that no software platform or BI report can assist with. The relationships that are formed, managing different personalities, dispute resolution, and negotiation. These are skills that are unique to some of the individuals I hope that are watching this webinar. Effective project managers will ideally systemize what can be systemized, making sure that you have the data to choose the projects that you want to pursue. Allow tools to optimally allocate resource and minimize bench time, and perhaps most importantly, automate an accurate billing and month-end process. In order to manage projects effectively, it is vital that the data is real-time and accurate. Spreadsheets will outlive us all, but putting in place systems that provide the path of least resistance for entry of vital data, like timesheets or bills from sub-consultants, is the only way to give yourself the best chance at making sound decisions. Total Synergy was born in Australia in 1999 and has now marked 25 years in operation. We continue to develop our platform purely for consultants in the AEC space, and we are quickly approaching 900 customers with 15,000 users logging into Total Synergy each day. Total Synergy facilitates the management of thousands of engineering projects each year, from project scheduling and planning to real-time updates to changes in vital measures like staff availability and job performance. $6.8 billion worth of invoices have flowed out of Synergy to date, and creating further efficiencies in the billing process continues to be part of our development plans. Our suite of Power BI dashboards with reports built specifically for engineering consultancies continues to drive our approach to helping our clients leverage the data they need in an easy-to-consume format, and ultimately provide their clearest path to project profitability. We partner with many accessory platforms like the ones listed here to allow our clients a seamless platform experience and continue to add to this list. We are supported by some of the most experienced staff in our space and give our clients unlimited access to their wealth of knowledge. And lastly, we are proud to assist some of the most skilled engineers in the world deliver amazing projects. If you want to hear from some of these clients, then please feel free to visit totalsynergy.com. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Julian, for your input today. I'd now like to welcome our final speaker, Jessica Chesser. Jessica is a results-driven, people-focused leader with demonstrated record of operational excellence across business and client priorities, scale, improvements, and growth. Jessica shares her practical project experience across delivery lifecycle, intentional academic learning, and outstanding business and management knowledge combined and delivered throughout current responsibilities with BSC. Please welcome Jessica Chesser. Hi, Jessica. Firstly, thank you for joining us today. Probably the first thing I'd like to start with is if you could please give us maybe a quick introduction about yourself and your role at BSC.
Thank you so much for including me in the chat, Meg. I think this will be really interesting. I'm Jessica Chesser. I've spent almost 20 years in property construction project development across various different aspects of a project lifecycle. I really can't imagine working in any other industry. Now with BSE, my role is National Operations Manager. I ensure our project delivery and business operations are streamlined, consistent, and compliant across multiple teams in 5 locations. Broad scope really across all areas of our business to enable our teams and specialised functions to work together following our strategy and looking at growth. In context of this chat, I guess I rely really heavily on data from individual projects, each teams, and from the group as a whole to inform decisions, initiate and really deepen conversations and allow some really proactive collaboration. And again, in context of this chat, I've been working with Total Synergy's platforms for about 10 years.
Okay, excellent. So what type of projects does BSC manage?
Type of projects we don't manage might be the shorter answer, to be honest. Consistently several hundred a year as a consultant. So across Australia, our BSC's teams work across most major development sectors: aged care, education, commercial, retail, hospitality and leisure, infrastructure and residential, sort of big ticket items. And we'll deliver everything from a smaller retail fit out or commercial tenancy to a large new build, aged care, commercial or residential.
Excellent. Very broad. Probably the next question will be around the types of challenges that you face with regards to project management and how you juggle those projects.
Yeah, it's a really different challenge per project. Each project has something unique it's going to throw up for the team. And my big picture perspective, I guess, is that the first challenge of any project is really ensuring the scope of what a client actually wants. Delivering the work is probably the reasonably straightforward piece of it. Understanding the priorities for the client, the end user, limitations of space in any building, limitations of the site, time, budget, any information or lack thereof of the existing building or infrastructure can be a challenge, and everybody's favourite of aligning team member capacity and capability with the requirements of the projects. From a consultant's perspective, deliverable dates changing, we don't always have a lot of control over those timeframes. Scope changes or creep, and probably what might resonate with engineers particularly is giving our teams capacity to be innovative and providing creative solutions in really often heavily restricted timeframes and budgets can be a challenge. From a, I guess, higher level perspective, my challenges tend to be providing our team, our project leads, managers, and directors with sufficient information to make informed decisions consistently and metrics to review performance, aligning that project delivery with business strategy. So hopefully some of the other questions we'll look at will address how Total Synergy support us with those challenges.
Excellent. Well, probably, the next question would be, what have you implemented in terms of systems and processes, which very much around focusing on how to overcome those challenges. So hopefully, if you could just maybe comment upon that.
Sure. I think broadly, I'd answer that question by saying a strong, supported, implemented management system. So for BSC, this includes quality, health and safety and environment, with Synergy as our practice management system for project delivery. The two are really closely aligned and interdependent from our business. They have inputs and outputs into every area of our business, all our teams, other software packages, including those specific project challenges and how we address them. With Synergy, we have the information and data available for the people who need it on key metrics, objectives, both lag and lead indicators, as well as the performance metrics for individuals, for projects, for teams, and as a group. So we've aligned each of these levels of objectives and how we measure them into our business strategy so that our team members can really understand how their hard work and contributions align with our business success and growth. And how we've configured and established our use of Synergy has been a really collaborative process in that we've understand that our business and our project priorities are really aligned, and we've worked on adapting and customizing Synergy to align with those.
Excellent, thank you. The next question I have would be, so what is now best practice for BSC when managing your projects? And I suppose what, a lot of people are interested in, do you feel that it gives you a competitive advantage?
I can't give away all of the secrets.
Fair enough.
If I had to, I think summarize it. Consistency and compliance, and not overcomplicating it, is the best practice for it. So all of our projects are initiated and managed with the entire life cycle being through the Synergy platform. We utilize a range of project and document templates to streamline the entire project delivery for our project leads, our engineers, and our support teams. We're always looking at better ways of doing things, learning, adjusting, and considering new or different features. One of the key reasons Synergy is our choice of platforms in this context is it doesn't overcomplicate project management or our business. It's designed to be used by engineers and designers and consultants in our industry, not by a project manager whose role is just managing projects. So our engineers and designers need to use their experience to find creative solutions, not on data entry. And I guess we found this approach works best for us, aligning Synergy with our management system and our business model and strategy.
Yeah. So in terms of the efficiency in the projects, How have you optimized the process?
Similarly, I guess, to what we just talked about, consistency in approach is really important for small to large projects, regardless of team or location. Our systems and processes are designed to work effectively for our entire business rather than just one individual. Having our teams understand this and seeing the benefits of project management, having visibility of metrics and performance, and the process just naturally improves how our teams work. And then that we're all committed to the same outcomes as well. So practically, I guess, for things like collaboration, Microsoft platforms and Synergy are real, as I've mentioned, are really deeply entrenched in our business, giving our teams a central location for information, opportunities to collaborate, in both in person and then online with team members in other locations. So that really helps contribute to great project outcomes, streamlined for the business, and great results for everybody.
Thanks, Jessica. One of the questions that I had, and I know you've touched on it, but I just know that our audience will be interested in this, in your answers, I should say. It's all around, the importance of utilizing the data when making the decisions about the projects, but also about the business itself. So, what data do you use?
Lots is the short answer. Data being absolutely essential for decision making in potential projects, active projects, and the business priorities. And a huge portion of this comes from Synergy for us. So in our projects, clients and project partner information, any previous experience that we have with them, key lessons learned from preferences, priorities. Then for our project leads, the data, Synergy gives us data on the visibility, cost, budget, progress through the project lifecycle, really. For individual projects, that we aggregate them by team, by location, by group.
Yeah.
We also use data specifically from Synergy that we track specific objectives, priorities for the business through projects, through the project lifecycle, and then formally through months, quarters, annual reports. So it also gives us data in terms of priorities, new project opportunities, conversion to active projects, revenue forecasting, which then informs our people strategy and our finance strategy. We can also look at trends about where our work is coming from, and we only get that from the data in terms of which sectors is the work coming from, locations, geographic locations, and specific clients. So we use this data from Synergy both formally, as I've said, for reporting as sort of like a lag indicator, performance, and a lead indicator for strategic decisions. So formal discussions, informal considerations, and day-to-day management.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. So we definitely, from this, I'm hearing that it is the total synergy, the data-driven success, project success for BSC. So all that data, but how has it reduced the risk?
Sure. I think data gives information that then drives decisions. And whether it's making an adjustment, a unique approach for a specific project, the data from Synergy gives us consistency with a strong process, which makes a project successful. So really reducing risk by visibility of the key metrics that we know from our experience impact outcomes, business outcomes, project outcomes. Synergy centralizes our knowledge, our information. It makes it easier to collaborate. It brings different team members together, and it means when we're bringing new team members into the organization, we can get them up to speed and informed really quickly. So having pure and simple, having facts, data to understand a situation rather than an individual's potentially biased interpretation, just inherently reduces risk. and the metric of what's our risk assessment compared to what was the actual outcome of the project is really important.
Well, thanks, Jess. Well, now it's you, our audience's turn to get involved in today's webinar. So please ask our speakers your questions via the chat box, and I can see that some of those have come through. Don't forget to let me know who your questions are directed to as well. What I might do is start our Q&A today with some questions that we've received on registration. So a big thank you to everyone who submitted their questions while registering for today's webinar. Now, what I might do, it's been a while, so I might bring Julian back into the conversation first. Now, Julian, we've got a question which came through from Daniel from WA. Now, the question is, what is the most critical element that should be the starting point to establish project management processes in a small team?
The first thing, excuse me, the first thing that jumps to mind is probably not to let the scale sort of impair processes, really. You might be a small team, but you've still got project goals, you've still got milestones, you might have some budgetary constraints internally, but having the right processes in place, I think, is the right platforms in place and the right processes in place, regardless of scale, is probably the most important thing.
Thanks, Julian. Jess or Michael, did anyone else want to comment on that question?
I think you addressed it pretty clearly from my perspective.
Awesome. Well, Jess, while I have you, we did get a question which came through from Prabhu from New South Wales, and it was, what are the current challenges being faced in project management?
Sure. I think they're pretty consistent, the challenges that they've always been with project delivery. They've probably increased in complexity over the last few years specifically. So stakeholders, scope creep, resources being the ones that have got more challenging very recently. Budget time, risk and quality outcomes, regardless of the type of project you're delivering, whether it's an engineering one, whether it's construction-based project. Regulatory changes, particularly if you're working across borders within Australia or internationally. I think there's some exciting changes that are happening, but there's a lot of consideration that has to go into those. So I think the challenges there are pretty consistent with what they've always been, as I said, increased in complexity. But Michael or Julian might have a very different perspective as well.
No, I think like anything with a business bent as well, particularly capital projects, obviously the situation in the economy has an effect, and just in general, in any situation over time, you're expecting things to become more effective and more efficient, and more tools. The whole AI thing, there will be pressure for that to be utilized somehow. I just think the skill sets of project managers are going to need to, or at least they'll feel the pressure to continue to expand those. Probably be one of those things as well.
Thanks, Julian. And
just
Michael?
to add to that, I think just to add to that, there's the political environment we find ourselves in, and obviously some projects get funded, some don't, some change. So I think as project managers, it's just being ready for the fact that whilst you might embark on a journey to deliver a certain project, there's a high likelihood that your client may change the end output. So it's really being ready to accept that change will happen. It's also, I think, clearly articulating the project benefits, what it is you're trying to deliver for your client. Even I find some of our clients haven't articulated that enough. So probably if I could reflect on things that would help you up, help a better chance of success, is even going back to the business case and having that as your guiding document as you, as the project manager, undertake this exercise to deliver it for your client. You'll get challenged along the way. The clients are going to be looking to squeeze additional value. They'll be looking to value engineer. They'll be looking to save costs. They'll be looking to deliver faster. So these are some of the regular challenges you're faced with as a project manager. It sort of goes with the job.
Thanks. Michael, I've seen, and I know you touched on AI just then and during your presentation today, but we did have a question which has come in on registration and has come in live with specifically around AI. So the one from registration was from Augustus, can AI help in project management? And then we also had watching live today, Ross Phillips, so big hello to Ross. Will there be a generation coming who won't be able to provide the human oversight / interpretation of AI outputs? So,
I think it's on top of everyone's mind, and it's quite an exciting decade that we're about to go into. I think the organisations that are going to win here are the ones that appreciated that data has an associated value with it. And whilst we might not have known what to do with that data 5 years ago or 10 years ago, if you collected that information, particularly around your as-built type data on how long it took you to engineer or design a particular project, how you delivered it, the issues you encountered, etc., that information is trapped within various projects at the moment, and it might be in the schedule that's been archived somewhere in your business or your project environment. But the companies that will win here, the ones that can sort of unlock that historic information, and I think that's really where AI is going to excel. Its ability to deal with huge volumes of information, particularly around how we planned, executed, and delivered a project, and what went well, what went wrong. Even if some of this data was not quite well structured. So I was definitely, during my session earlier, advocating the need for common data environment and some structure. But AI is also going to be a little bit more forgiving in that it can associate things regardless of a code structure being there or not. So I think for AI, it is going to play an increasing role in projects going forward. Its forte at the moment will be particularly around looking at aspects of risk and delivery timeframes. It's going to allow you that you might be planning a project, and AI can then give its own view as to, have you considered these particular risks or challenges that you're likely to encounter on this type of project? I don't really think it's at the level yet where it can actually write the plan for you, or it can develop the schedule for you. But who knows, maybe in 10 or 15 years it can. So I think the human component and human experience of how things are actually constructed is still really important and can't be underestimated. And so I think there was a last question there from the live chat that someone asked, is there potentially going to be a generation of people that are very savvy with AI and the new tools that are coming out? And I think what the question asker was implying, is there a risk then that the experience that project and construction managers have today from the projects they've delivered, maybe is that going to dwindle? So is this new generation of AI savvy engineers and project managers going to be enough? I would say we've got to be very careful here and not assume that AI is the answer to all of our projects going forward. Experience is important, and some of the traditional methods of project delivery are going to remain important going forward for many years to come.
Thank you. Jess, we had a live question come through for yourself, and it was, how do systems engineers and project managers at BSC collaborate for complex projects? Do you use some specific software tool to collaborate when moving from one phase to another?
Part of the, I guess, secret for us as a consultant is our engineers are our project leads. So it's a dual role that they have, which they're trained for, developed for. They take off their engineering hat, they put on their project lead hat, and it gives them a really good overview of what the team needs to be able to work on the project. So when moving through a phase of the life cycle of a project, it's fairly straightforward. Synergy and Microsoft platforms being Outlook, Teams, SharePoint as the base. The communication happens formally, I guess, through email, informally through Teams, and we open and close stages. So regular reporting of WIP and invoicing of when the deliverables have gone. So there's not a big, from my perspective on the sort of projects we deliver, there's not a big secret to this is how you collaborate. It's people-based, giving them the information that they need. How are they communicating with clients? Has the information we've sent met the deliverable requirements? Yes, tick, we move on to the next stage. I think I mentioned in my chat earlier that sometimes we don't have a lot of control over the deadlines and deliverable dates that we have. So making sure our project leads are proactively communicating with our clients and project partners and feeding that back into the rest of the design team is really important. Again, informally through Teams, formally through email if we need to, like everyone, the less internal emails, the better. And then regular weekly resourcing meetings.
Thanks, Jess. Michael, I had a question for you. It came through live, and the question was, what is your view on establishing a project baseline and controlling scope? What data points are important in this regard?
That's a really good question. On my own journey, I won't say I've got it right every single time, but my appreciation of a baseline on a project, I sort of get it now. There is a tendency at projects, especially during early development and delivery stages, where you don't quite know all the information on your project. And if you wait until you've got the perfect well to set your path forward, well, then you're already probably going to be late in delivering your project. So we need to get projects through development, design, into delivery within a reasonable time frame and to meet your expectations of your clients and stakeholders. So we're sort of competing with a number of pressures here. One is to charge forward and deliver, but the risk of that is that we haven't defined everything to the nth degree. Therefore, we might have it's going to be a riskier project with more change we need to deal with. And the other is we spend too much time planning to the nth degree and then we baseline. My recommendation to project managers is certainly achieve that baseline fairly early. We know change is going to happen, and then we manage that change. We assess it in terms of the scope, the cost, the time impact of any changes to the program, and then incorporate the change and go forward or reject the change. So the baseline is quite important. The other reason it's really important to projects is around the project culture we're trying to set. I generally, with my project teams, at the kickoff meeting, we'll be talking around what are the expectations of not just the project manager, but the engineering leads and everyone, in fact, working on the project. And that is, we have a time frame to deliver to. So we are going to measure both the estimated engineering hours for each work package. And whilst we may not always get it right, you will be asked to explain, if engineering hours are going up or you're delivering in less, what happened and how do we control that going forward. So the baseline is really important as early as we can. And that's okay. We can update the baseline as we go. The other point I was going to make is that in terms of the data points that you'll be looking at, I'll call it trending data or forecasting data. So we're probably all used to seeing engineering S-curves. And if you haven't looked at that, there's probably information you can find on the internet. But the engineering S-curve does really give you that baseline that you can follow for your team to give you an early indication that maybe the team is not delivering to what the initial estimate or plan had on the project. It's going to give you early warning and a chance to get back on plan. If you don't have the baseline, then that engineering S-curve or the plan line isn't there, and you'll tend to drift from month to month, not actually realizing that you're running late on your project. So in terms of the data points, it will be around cost, it would be around schedule, and also a focus on your engineering deliverables and the percent complete from week to week or month to month. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thanks, Michael. Jess, I've got another question. Everyone's very interested in BSE. So this one's come through from Ross, and just asking about, using other platforms. My experience is of a constant friction between users wanting to customize dashboards versus what management wants to report. what would be your approach?
Yeah. There's two things I guess I'd say on this is making sure all of our teams are aligned with the big goals of the organization. So what individual project leads are being assessed on in terms of performance, project performance, and what management is looking at, that they're aligned, that they're not two different sets of priorities for the business. So business reality of profit, customer satisfaction, what are your quality metrics, team member metrics of like individual satisfaction, environmental considerations, getting them on the same page is essential. So in terms of practically, Synergy has inbuilt dashboards that give basic information for the projects that an individual is running and as a group. And then we custom build reports based on specific metrics that we need, that are sort of more of a project lead tool than a dashboard tool. But the priorities of both align. So we're not setting different targets for an engineer or a project lead and then different ones for our management team. It's the same information in slightly different context. And from a how do we implement this, I think really sharing with our team members why those specific metrics are being used, how they feed back into that individual's performance, and then potential growth opportunities. So hopefully I've answered that reasonably well.
Thanks, Jess. Julian, there was a question which came through earlier, and it was around how to improve leadership communication. So how do you prepare for that? I was just wondering if you'd be able to comment upon that.
It's probably a bit trite, but it has to be planned for, I would say. I mean, there has to be a plan how leadership will communicate, and how the channels are set up between leaders and people who are being led, I guess. But a charter or a plan around that, and having those channels in place is really the only way to have that done effectively. If everything is totally ad hoc, then whatever hierarchy is in place will kind of inform how communication works. So I just think having a plan in place prior and that being well communicated around all the stakeholders is the best way to ensure that kind of communication that you're looking to achieve is actually realistic. So that would be my take on it.
Thanks, Julian. I've got a next question, probably for Jess and Michael. We just had Damien from New South Wales, just interested in, for an engineer looking to make the switch into project management full time, what training do you recommend? So I suppose if two of you would like to provide some words of wisdom for Damien with regards to potentially how he could do that.
Cool. Do you want to kick that one
I'll go
off?
first if you like. So, first of all, I think the on the tools experience is probably the most invaluable. So if you're an engineer with a number of years experience, you've probably already found yourself in a position as maybe the package lead or the work package manager. And for that reason, you've actually, although you may not have the title of project manager, you actually have learnt most of the project management skills you already need to be a project manager. You've learnt around planning and scheduling, around resource management for managing a team, what risks you might encounter in delivering the work, performance management, cost management, hours management, etc. So I actually see the natural course of, as engineers take on more senior roles and then as package leaders, they are in fact learning the skill of project management. If you're looking at probably a sort of a formal pathway, maybe it's something Engineers Australia host could post in the chat afterwards, but there will be formal learning programs. I know when I'm hiring project managers, I'm definitely looking for both first-hand experience, but also formal qualifications, and that could be through Engineers Australia, and there's some other engineering certifications and organisations that might help you as well.
And
Jessica,
Jess?
what's your worth?
So I would absolutely agree with all of that. Practical experience and transferable experience. If it's having project leadership isn't something that you're able to have in an engineering role or in a construction project role, they're very transferable skills from other areas of education or experience. Managing a team or like a sports team or something like that translates really well. And the knowledge, I think there's not one right way to do it. There's a lot of wrong ways to do it, but it's bringing your own approach, practical experience, the education into then how do you bring that into running your projects. That's sort of a bit airy-fairy, but hopefully there's something helpful in that.
A
Thanks,
nice
Jess. So
new
I
pair
can
of RM's William boots wouldn't hurt either, would it, Michael?
Well, look, in all
With a blue
seriousness,
check shirt.
Engineering Education
Yep.
Australia, EEA, which is part of Engineers Australia, definitely offers quite a lot of training. So I'd encourage everyone to have a look there with regards to project management. I can see that we've got quite a few live questions come through, so I might bring some of those in. Now, Julian, and well, really this is open to the panel. There's some specific questions around, firstly, one was, do you see the difference in challenges in managing software and other projects? And if anyone could comment upon your experiences of software-based and non-software-based projects. I'm not quite sure if anyone is doing non-software-based projects, but
I'd assume you'd have to be using spreadsheets potentially, or some way of documenting everything. And generally what we're experiencing is data's just not live. Data entry's inaccurate. A spreadsheet is a very powerful tool, and it will outlive the cockroaches, I'm sure. But yeah, it's generally inaccurate data input. You're always responding to information that's historic. And in incredibly complex projects, like some of the ones Michael and his team work on, I'm sure, it's very time sensitive. So having the right piece of software can really assist with that.
Yeah, I think depending on the scale and complexity, I mean, I wouldn't be adverse to using Excel on a project of a 2-week duration and with limited deliverables, etc. But the further you go on, the longer and more stakeholders you have and more deliverables you have. Excel certainly will struggle. So you really, at that stage, need to be thinking about your planning and scheduling environment, but also your cost management environment, the correspondence on the project, tracking costs, both the hours you're consuming or the products or services you're engaging with. So really at that point in time, if you're not implementing a software solution, it probably makes your project a little bit riskier.
Thanks, Michael. Michael, while I have you, there was a question which came through asking around, do you keep updating a risk management plan? And is it recommended to keep doing that along the project?
That's a really good question. And it excites me for a couple of reasons. I mean, who can get excited about risk management, eh? But I mean, there's always unknowns on projects, isn't there? So I'm hearing some chuckles. So what I find interesting is, I mean, the risk management plan, I suppose, does two things for you. One is it sets out how you will manage risks on your project, and that really needs to be in line with the standards for risk management anyway. But the plan goes beyond that too. So I think maybe the person asking the question it could be more alluding to around the risk register and the risks you've identified very early on in the project. My advice to the people watching today would be, firstly, no project is the same. So if you're looking to standardize risk management with a standard sort of risk set, you probably think again. And what I find is a really useful way of doing this is to whoever is facilitating the session would be probably prompting the team to think a bit deeper about what could go wrong on a project. But also the other flip side to risk is opportunity management as well. To get to the question though, is it a set and forget type thing, or should you be updating your plan? In terms of the risk register, risks will be different at the earlier phases of a project. So anything related to design risk, as soon as you go into construction, well, the design's done. So it's important that the risk registers are updated for currency and that risks are reviewed. I would recommend minimum every 3 months in your project, but if you're in a complex environment, you'll be looking at these things weekly and monthly, and they'll be definitely highlighted at your project management meetings each month. So the answer to the question is yes, update your risk plan as required, but your risk register is review it regularly and look deep under the bonnet as to what could go wrong on your project to make sure you're mitigating it. One last closing remark there is the bit that does excite me about risk management is potential use of AI going forward. So, for example, we're looking at a solution at the moment that was developed. The more you deliver a certain type of project, certain risks are going to be common to those. We are actually looking to implement AI across the data center environment. I think we've got a total now of about 8 data center builds from across the UK and Europe. So all of those risks in those registers, what actually happened, the issues that were encountered, AI is now looking at these data sets across 8 data center builds, is actually able to help you predict what could go wrong or what is a risk at various points during the delivery of that project. So that is going to take a lot of guesswork out of it for project managers going forward.
Thanks, Michael. Julian, a quick question. We are getting right to the very end of our Q&A today. A question came through just around how are documents, revisions, and general document control managed in Synergy? I think there's a little bit of interest.
Yeah, so we quite tightly integrate with the Microsoft suite. So generally, we see our clients integrating with SharePoint for deliverables. There'll generally be an approach of maybe a CDE type product for managing the model data. But typically, the way we see it done in Synergy is you generate a project which generates a folder structure, which you're typically doing anyway, mirror that into SharePoint, mirror that into Teams, and create kind of a circular environment so that if there's updates to revisions and that sort of thing, it's communicated throughout that ecosystem. So yeah, that's the way we approach it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, I think that's about all the time that we have for today. So if we could please join me once again thanking our speakers, Michael Downing, Julian Connolly, and Jessica Chesser for their time and input today. Most appreciative. I would also like to thank Engineers Australia's industry partner, Total Synergy, for their support. I'm very excited to remind everyone of some exciting Engineers Australia's flagship events happening very shortly. Firstly, we have our 2024 Climate Smart Engineering Conference happening here in Brisbane on the 22nd of August. So don't forget to look at the registrations for that. And then followed by in September with our Engineers Australia Excellence Awards. So a great opportunity and a chance to celebrate local projects and people. Can I also please remind everyone to complete the short feedback form, which is linked in the description box below. Your feedback is really important to us as it helps us to improve and plan for our future sessions. Lastly, thank you all again for joining us today, and we hope to see you at our next Thought Leaders event. Good afternoon.